Welcome everyone to April 2026 session of our Spiritual Questions Answered. My name is Ket. I'm the co-founder of CordyKet, and we've been doing spiritual and energy work since 2010, alright? And I've been doing this podcast for quite some time, since the pandemic. Okay, the topic for tonight is overcoming fear. Let me first apologize. Right, I'm having a little bit of sore throat, but I decided to go ahead. So don't mind if I need to clear my throat or take a drink every now and then. Okay, so the topic for tonight is overcoming fear. So we will start with understanding what exactly is fear. So I think if we take a look at the dictionary or whatever, right? In general, we know fear, right, is an emotion, right? It's not only an emotion; it's a strong emotion, right? It's one of the strongest emotion, and it normally comes about with because of. So it's because of one is usually so it normally comes about because of one, awareness, two, anticipation of danger. Alright. So fear is generally a strong emotion that comes about because of our awareness of or anticipation of danger. And many people, I think maybe from then until now, from old times until now, experience fears in many ways. And in today's society, there are different types of fear. All right. So even stress is considered as a type of fear. So anxiety is a type of fear, and there are many people who live with right this type of chronic symptoms. So there are people who live with chronic fear, anxiety, stress. And tonight I hope to share what I know on fear and how we can go about overcoming fear. Now, so once we have, when a lot of people go through this type of chronic fear or anxiety or even stress, obviously our well-being, mental well-being, emotional well-being, right, is not good. Our life is also affected. So let's try to understand fear a little bit better. So when we talk about fear, right, the starting point is what is known as innate fear. So the scientists, the psychologists did a lot of tests to discover what exactly is innate fear. So innate means what the kind of fear, innate fears are fears that we are born with. In general, it's acknowledged that there are only two types of innate fears. All right, so there's only two types of innate fears. One, so that means, so they do a lot of experiments with babies, right? So they discovered babies, right, actually newborns, right? There is only two types of fear. One is the fear of loud sounds, right? So baby, when exposed to loud sounds, they will cry and they'll get fearful. And then the next one is actually fear of and it is considered that every other fear are considered as learned. So even fear of pain, babies do not know, they are not fearful of pain at first, but they will cry because of pain. Apparently, to the scientists, psychologists, whatever, initially the stuff that really makes babies fear, all right, are loud sounds and falling. Okay, so these are considered innate fears, and everything else is considered fears that we acquire, that we learned. And if we will try to, understand a little bit more about fear, so let's say um, every one of us has fears, right? So if we were to categorize them, all right, so there's one way of categorization which I would like to share. So there are stuff like so there are some things which are considered universal fears. All right, so different people may think differently about universal fears. Universal means everybody, all right, will have different types of fears. So if you have question, you can type it directly in the chat while I'm sharing. Okay, so what we're trying to do is, in order to finish the talk, all right, I'll try to finish up what I have to say, and then I will take a look at your questions. But as I'm talking, so if you happen to have questions that are very relevant, and if it appears on my Zoom, I will address it, or otherwise we'll continue. Otherwise, if I don't continue, we'll never finish. Yeah. So universal fears. Well, there are a couple of universal fears. The first one, okay, so is obviously pain, right? Then, of course, danger. One would say these two are actually under danger. Okay, it's danger to the babies, but we add danger again because as we as we grow up, we learn other types of danger. Okay, so obviously pain, danger, and disgust. We are fearful of things that are disgusting. Things that we find very yucky, and we don't want to get ourselves into that kind of situation, right? This is something that is learned. Obviously, disgust is something that's learned, but it becomes something that's very universal. Yeah, a lot of people are very fearful of stuff that are, disgusting. And then universal is stuff, the kind of fears that most people have. Now, there is another set of fears which we can say is cultural fears. Now, what are cultural fears like? Cultural fears means fears coming from our culture, from society that we live in. And when we are in different type of cultures, the fears may be different. Okay? Now, cultural fears, for example, can be embarrassment. Right? This is embarrassment. Fear of embarrassment is generally something that we learned, I think, starting from our families. All right, and then as we grow up, as we get exposed to society, we learn embarrassment. It is not necessarily universal because it depends on what kind of family you're brought up in. So, but obviously, a lot of families will teach something like embarrassment because, for example, parents would want to teach their child to wear clothes and not to go around naked. So they have to, make the child learn embarrassment. Yeah, but maybe not all families do that. So there may be other very specific type of cultural fears. So for those of you who don't know, I'm based in KL, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. So I'm Malaysian. Something that is quite common here in Malaysia. So Malaysia is a Muslim majority country. So amongst many of the Muslims, there is a fear, all right, that probably many people around the world are not aware of. In Malaysia, for many of the Muslims, they have this fear of dogs, right? Because this is a Muslim thing, yeah. So to the Muslims, the dogs are haram or filthy, and they should not be touched. And if they are touched, they need to wash their hands. Or they can only be touched under certain circumstances. And after you touch a dog, you must wash your hands properly, and so on. So all this have to do with the past when Prophet Muhammad encountered dogs, and different Muslim sects may have different interpretations. But in Malaysia, many Muslims are afraid of dogs, so they stay away from dogs, and they don't want dogs to come near. If the dogs come and lick them, they'll be like, oh, it's like it's a big deal. So for other cultures, religions, and so on, it's a strange thing. Yeah. So this is like cultural fear. Or some of us may be born, in a place that is warring, having wars, and there will be fears based on race or ethnicity, right? So in warring nations, nation A or people, race A will be teaching their children to be fearful of race B. Race B will be teaching their children to be fearful of race A. Both fear and anger. So this is something that is considered cultural. Okay, so let me just so some people have some questions that I think I may want to address that is relevant. So Lynn is asking, like pain, why is pain not considered an innate fear? So I don't know exactly why the psychologists don't consider, but you can go and read up. So all the doctors of science, they will say babies, the real innate fear they consider is only loud sounds and falling. And while babies cry because of pain, it somehow, the way they do their experiments and everything, they conclude that babies do. I think maybe newborns, when they first react to pain, while they will cry, but maybe they do some tests and it's not exactly fearful. It's just But of course, after you poke, let's say poke a baby a few times, then they'll recognize it's something that they don't want. Then, and if it's too much, then they'll start to be fearful of the pain, right? So I think they will have their own reasons for doing it. So I'm not the one who will come up with this. Okay, so universal fears, cultural fears. So culture is not because of us. Now the other kind of fear, which many of us will have, are what we consider personal fears. So personal fears, now some personal fears maybe, to some of you will be like universal, for example, but this is not exactly universal, but for many people they will have fear of rejection, yes, fear of loneliness, fear of, I'll name the big ones that, you can have a long list. The point here, we're not trying to list down every fear, yeah. Loss of control. These are real fears that a lot of people are affected. So initially, all right, fear in general is understood as because of the awareness of or anticipation of danger. All right, so and for babies, to them danger will be loud sounds and falling. In case you all don't know, babies are even a newborn, even if they can open their eyes, they don't see very well, right? Stuff like that. So their senses are not so good. So these are the stuff that can tell them that it's dangerous, and they will respond in fear. All right. Maybe the scientists, they will put all the electrodes, measure the heartbeat and brain waves, and maybe certain brain waves are fear and pain, not exactly. But eventually they will learn. All right. So Stuff like pain, danger, and disgust, these are considered universal fear, cultural fears, and then personal fears. Now, when we talk about fear in awareness of and anticipation of danger, something that is going to be very important will, of course, be something known as our fight or flight response. So the doctors, the scientists, the psychologists, whatever, they study this, right? So when we are faced with danger, excuse me, so things will happen to us, all right? And then we will go into this fight or flight response. And so they, of course, when we are fighting, we are not exactly fully in fear, okay? But we can also go into flight. And sometimes people will, the doctors nowadays, they say there is also another option, fight, flight, or freeze. This is common thing, all right? So usually I would say this side here is more belonging to the fear, right? Flight or freeze. This is usually what happens. So basically, in the fight or flight response, our sympathetic system and our neurotransmitters will go, and then our heartbeat is supposed to pump faster, adrenaline, all right, so that we can choose to either fight or flight. And there'll be neurotransmitters like cortisol for stress and so on. So, so in this type, when something like this is happening, there's a lot of neurotransmitters. And our brain is very involved. All right, so no neurotransmitters, brain. So neurotransmitters are like hormones and stuff. Our brain, our heartbeat. So all this get going. This is to understand, what's happening with the body, and then later when we come to talking about how we're going to deal with it, we want to know a little bit about this. So I'm not a doctor. I know a little bit of this, but I'm not going to go into the doctor stuff. All right, we even have a doctor here attending. So this is what's going on. Another thing I would like to point out for everyone is, so you have all this type of classification of fears. There are also other ways of classifying fears. So the other way I would like to classify fear is real fear versus imagined fear. So I think you all know what are real fears, what imagined fears. Anyone, anyone who has faced something, a difficult task, or embarrassing stuff, or you need to go up to stage to give a speech, or you need to go and propose to a girl or a guy, approach, and we may be very fearful, right? And all those will be fear of rejection or stuff or embarrassment, right? Not necessarily danger. And so there is no real danger per se. There's no real danger per se. But there's a lot of imagined dangers, right? Especially in the class of embarrassment and rejection. All right, so this is a very real fear, and it is very good for us to know that imagined fears are not necessarily real, right? So when I put it this way, right, there are real fears and there are imagined fears. And everyone need to be aware that a lot of fears are imagined. It's all here. And this imagined fear can be so serious that it becomes irrational fear. Irrational fear is when people are not rational anymore. They cannot think straight anymore. Right? They're so fearful. So this is real, okay? So I'm talking about people who really experience fear to the point whereby they imagine it and make it worse and worse, and you get to irrational fear, and all kinds of things could be happening in their minds and they may act out. Okay. Now, another classification of fear is debilitating fear. Let me write. So debilitating fear is actually the freeze symptom. All right, you're so fearful that you freeze, and so this debilitating fear can be acute, whereby you're freezing in real life. So something happens to you, it's fearful, whether it is real or imagined. It's so fearful that you freeze. You cannot do anything. All right, it will be the equivalent of freezing. So acute means at that moment, at that point, you just can't do anything. You're just frozen. All right, or shocked. In shock. There is also the chronic kind. There is a long-term kind of debilitating fear. Okay, so long-term kind of debilitating fear will be chronic. So that is when people are frozen in something that they don't take action for a long time because of fear. So it's not like they're frozen acute, like, oh, they can't move. But in a certain area of their life, because of our fear, whether it's universal, cultural, or personal, usually it's under cultural or personal fear, that we have some sort of chronic debilitating fear that we fail to take actions to correct our life for our well-being of life. All right, so someone is correct. So mentioned. So in modern psychology, they try to mention fight, flight. Normally, it's fight or flight. That is the famous one. There's also fight or flight, freeze, or there's one fawn. All right, there's a fawn. I didn't present it here to try and simplify things. So fawn, I think FAWN. Fawn is this is rarer. This is usually when people are so fearful that they praise the one that they praise the thing or the person that they are fearful of. You know, oh Lord, spare me and the kind of thing. And you're the most powerful and so on. So there's some people who do that. I thought I wanted to simplify by not mentioning it. Usually it's fight, flight, or freeze. So this freeze would be this debilitating fear. Now, whatever it is, another term would be, especially with respect to chronic debilitating fear, people don't want to get out of their comfort zone, right? So this is roughly the classification. Now we're going to talk about how to overcome, right? How to overcome. Now, firstly, we want to have an understanding, and once we have an understanding, the first step of overcoming, right? Normally there's a process, okay? So to overcome, there's normally a process, and the process starts with it normally starts with awareness. Awareness is the first step to overcoming fear. The thing is, normally, when we first come into awareness of fear, we encounter the second stage usually happens, which is avoidance, right? This is standard, yeah? And when people avoid, they will go through suffering. So, and this is a cycle that keeps on repeating until there is another round of awareness. So this time I put it in capital letters. This awareness is in capital letters because now you see, so people tend to look over here, right? People tend to do this vicious cycle loop. You have some awareness, but you like your comfort zone too much. Maybe your body systems, your brain, heart, neurotransmitters, everything is keeping you there. And it is much easier to do avoidance because the moment you avoid, your brain and heart feels better, right? You're in your comfort zone, but you will suffer, right? Because of your fear, your life is not good. You don't really have well-being emotionally and mentally, or maybe even physically. And some people have physical symptoms, stress symptoms, hair fall, skin problems, immune systems not working well, and usually because it's the fight or flight system, the neurotransmitters, everything is going haywire, right? So they go through these cycles until bam, they hit the next real awareness, all right, big awareness, and from this big awareness, then the next thing they do is action. All right. Now this action will typically is something that takes some time, and you may be looping here, but you'll be a positive loop until you get to your breakthrough. Okay? You will get to your breakthrough. Now, this is in general what happens, and if you're having if you're having fear problems, and many people have, you can see, right, that we tend to stay here. There's some degree of awareness, then we do the avoidance thing, and then we are suffering, and we loop around here over and over until we have to get to this real big awareness whereby we decide that enough is enough, and then we take action. And this will be a cycle that feeds it. Oh, I'm taking action, right? And I'm aware it's the right action, and I'm feeling better, less and less fear. So you feed that until finally we reach breakthrough. Now, we want to talk a little bit back here. So this applies to many of these type of fears. And in life, there are a lot of things that help us break through these different types of fears. Okay? Now, a huge part of it would be there's a lot in life that will help us break through some cultural fears or personal fears, especially stuff like this, yeah? And they are, these milestones normally happen between childhood and adulthood, and sometime in adulthood, okay? So one of the milestones, I was just sharing with someone recently, and I'm going to share with everyone. It just so happened that I've already planned this talk, and someone approached me recently, and I talked a little bit about it. So there will be milestones in our life. There'll be many different types of milestones, but a common milestone that I'm going to talk about, all right, is this. Why this? Sex. It's strange. What does sex have to do with fear? Um, can can anyone think back? Now, I'm, but it may be different, okay? I'm coming from a very Asian culture. Let me share with you how sex was a milestone for me. Okay, how sex was a milestone for me. So, as an Asian, in Asian society, there are a lot of cultural fears, all right? A lot of cultural fears that can be broken by this milestone of sex. Why? There will be like milestone of rejection, embarrassment. Fears of embarrassment, rejection, a fear of, for example, going against our elders. Okay, in Asia, listening and following our elders, our parents, what our parents' wishes want, our elders of society, right, is a real big thing. And there's a lot of fears which are at the cultural level or the personal level. Definitely, they're not universal level, and it will be linked to sex, right? And so, what normally happens in this milestone is we have all these fears that are cultural, like fear of uh, parents going against parents, against elders, embarrassment, rejection, and all this, right? It restricts us as when we're a child and we're kind of okay. But when we grow up and then we meet someone whereby we are attracted to, right? We are very attracted to, physically attracted to, and uh, not just physical, right? When going through, you probably think that he or she is the one, and then inevitably it will lead to this thing of sex, and there may be cultural fears of of losing your virginity, not to the one whom you marry, but this is a very Asian thing, yeah. Now the thing is this: so when it comes to that, the first time you have sex, especially with your boyfriend, girlfriend, your lover, partner, it will be something that when we do it, it will be against many of these fears, many of these fears, right? All these fears, especially in the Asian society. I'm Asian. I can only give this example. This is a very good example, right? And what happens is, so as we grow up, as we're trying to, for Asian, when first time before you have sex, you're gonna like, maybe there's a lot of things going through your head and everything, and then you're suddenly aware, and then you just take action, and then you just like, to heck with all these fears, and I'm gonna do it, and then there will be a breakthrough, and a lot of the cultural and personal fears that are linked to that milestone will disappear. Okay, so I'm just giving this example, this milestone. Now, what other milestones are there? Now, I think in the Western world, there's this milestone whereby it doesn't happen so much in Asian families, whereby the children are supposed to leave home when they are old enough. Now, in Asian societies, we tend to stay with our parents until we're married. Okay? At least for me, Chinese, and the way I see in Malaysia, in many of my Asian friends, we tend to stay with our parents until we get married. As I understand, a lot of Westerners in the Western culture, right? The kids go out when they are mature enough and they want to, because they start having sex quite early, and on the sex taboo thing is not a big deal. But their milestone will be going out to stay. And being independent will force us to break through out of a lot of these cultural and personal fears. Right? So there are important milestones in our life that are already there. So it's not just sex, it's moving out, right? Being independent, a personal challenge. We will go through certain personal challenges, whether it is in in work, Or maybe someone want to start out a business, or they you know want to go and climb a mountain or something. There will be some milestone there, all right? That because of all this suffering, somewhere there's an awareness that we need to do something big. And usually it will be something of a very personal nature. Um, Let me just share a short story of my own story, my own personal challenge thing. So, I'm very typical Asian. I'm the only son in my family, and well, yeah, my parents were not rich. They used to be very poor and all this. But I still consider myself living quite sheltered life, and yeah, I was independent to a certain degree. I went to Singapore to study away from my parents and family when I was 12. There was a very, very interesting personal challenge that happened to me. So it may not be a big deal, but it was a big deal for me back then. So I was a teen, and I was studying in Singapore, and I was supposed to try and make my way back to Malaysia, my hometown, for Chinese New Year. So what happened was that I bought a train ticket, but I missed the train. It was really totally stupid. I saw a queue there for the train, but the queue never moved, so I just stayed on the queue. But it turned out the queue was for the later train, so I missed the train. I didn't realize the time, so I missed the train from Singapore to Malaysia. And it was Chinese New Year, so Chinese New Year is peak period for traveling. Public transport all sold out. So I was like, and for us Chinese, it's very important to make it back for Chinese New Year. So I was like, man, there's no more bus tickets, there's no tickets left. So what do I do? So the first thing was I'll try to chase the train. All right, those of you, if you know, in those days in Singapore, this would have been, like 40 years ago, something like that. Yeah, so I tried to take a cab all the way to the causeway, to the border, all right, to get, hopefully I'll get onto the train there, because the train will slowly move up north to my hometown. So I tried to catch a cab and go to the border. On the Singapore side, I didn't make it. So I jogged across the causeway, across to the Malaysian border, and still I missed it. And then I was like, oh man, I'm screwed. Because once the border is the best place, because at the border the train will have to wait, but I was still too late. So I thought I was screwed, yeah. But never mind. Okay, I'll try to make my way back, but there's no more tickets even from if you guys know, across the border in Malaysia, JB, Johor Bahru, there's no more tickets back to Malaysia. So for the first time in my life, I hitchhiked. I stuck out my tongue with my bag, right? And I hitchhiked. And I thought, I have no choice, but I can stay back in Singapore. But no, I was telling myself, no way. I'm just going to try. And I just went crazy, so I hitchhiked. And of course, a lot of cars ignored me. Eventually, some cars they stopped, but they're not going in the right direction. Eventually, there was a car that went in the right direction, but not all the way to my hometown. They're going somewhere north, and they say they can drop me off at a bus station in a small town north. And as long as it's going north, okay, and it was a car full of men. I'm like, okay, but never mind. It's like, they seem nice and decent, so I got into the car. I got into the car, and then, they really dropped me off at a small town at the bus station, and there were tickets. There were still tickets, last minute ticket, expensive, but I bought the last seat and I got on board the bus. And so, it took a long while before the bus departed, and then the bus went, and the bus was, I think the bus was not going to, the bus was not going back to my hometown. It's going to the capital, to KL, right, to Kuala Lumpur. But anyway, I figured I can get to KL, and then from KL to my hometown. So I took the bus, but before the bus reached KL, the bus broke down. And everybody had to get off, and we were there at the side of the road and had to wait hours for a replacement bus. And I was, at that point I was kind of wondering, wow, maybe heaven really want to test me. You really want to test me. It's like make me miss, to me, like, heaven made me miss the train. And do all this crazy stuff, and still the bus break down. It's like, why is heaven trying to prevent me from going back? But anyway, it doesn't matter. So there was a replacement bus. I got to KL. I called my friend, who's in KL. My friend, his mom, in those days, no smartphone. Yeah, had to use payphone and everything. And they came and picked me up for a while before my next bus to. I had to wait. Yeah, I think I had to wait for an entire day before there's a bus going back to my hometown. I had to call my friend and his parents. So his mom came, and they were very late too. And but never mind. So it was quite ordeal. In the end, I made my way back. Yeah, and I had to manage to call my parents. And as a teen, it was a real big deal. It was a real big deal. So I had a lot of fears of whether can I like be a man, can I face the unknown, right? Like there'll be like personal fear of facing the unknown and everything. So I had a personal challenge, all right, and a huge milestone for me, and I broke out of it. So, so one of my main points are going to be, we are all going to reach this milestone. Now, I'm talking about in the normal scheme of things. We all will reach a personal milestone whereby no amount of vicious cycling or cycling in the vicious cycle, all right, will stop you from having an awareness big enough to take action, because the alternative of the suffering is too big. It's too big. Then you will rise up to the challenge, and it could be something just like because sex is moving out, or some other personal thing that happens to us, or that we feel that this is something I got to take on. Maybe I need to do a business, or I just need to go and try it out with a friend. Or I've heard of people, people, I've heard stories like, they meet the love of their life, but the love of their life come from another country, and they need to uproot. And it's like crazy, it's like so crazy idea, especially for Asian, right? That you're gonna like, what? You're gonna like go with your newfound boyfriend, girlfriend, and just uproot and go to another country. And some people do that, it's something really personal, and it's not something that you really want, and you want to get out of the cycle of fear. Now, if there's anything like this that is happening in your life, what I suggest is you take it up. You take it up and you just go. Now, for a lot of people, it's not going to be that way. So, what do we do? Okay, so a lot of people, they're cycling here. The awareness is a small awareness, and we are continually in avoidance and suffering. We want to remain in comfort zone, and our fight and flight response system is giving us chronic fear, anxiety, stress, and maybe that's why some of you are here. Now, what we need to do is to break out of this cycle. We need to reach here. This is where you want to be, in a positive cycle. You want to have the big awareness that this needs to stop. Once you have the big awareness, you will take action. Now, many people will have fear of taking action. All I can tell you is there is science behind this. Taking action will get rid of fear. Action is the cure of fear. The key here is this. When you take action, it will cancel out fear. How does it work? There is a science behind it. And it lies in our neurotransmitters, the way our neurotransmitters work. Alright, specifically, alright, when we take action, the neurotransmitter that is responsible is called dopamine. Right, ever heard of it? So if you do something that is right, that will make you feel good, our system, will release dopamine, and it's as a reward. As a reward. So this, I think, this dopamine is what will break all these vicious cycles. And it needs to start with action first. If we do not take any action, we will not have this dopamine to break this cycle, because the moment we have this dopamine, we will have a feel-good effect. It's like, yeah, I managed to do it. It may be a small step, but today I managed to wake up earlier and do something. And it can be something as simple as exercise, right? So a lot of people talk about, it's difficult to wake up early for the morning job, but the moment you wake up and you do it, you feel good, right? Wow, waking up early to exercise, to jog or for a swim, it feels so good. Then this dopamine will form a feedback into a positive loop, and then you can get out. Know that there is science that backs it up. All right, so if you're in fear, please take action. Other things that you can do, all right, to break out of your fears. Now, a lot of people have many different types of fears. It can be some are very big deal, some are not so big deal, and some can be things like fear of snakes, fear of heights, fear of roller coaster, and stuff like that. So what can you do? You can actually do exposure therapy. Expose yourself, challenge yourself. Usually this happens with this. You need to have some form of awareness, all right? Then you need to take action. So you take action and you can decide to do some action like exposure therapy. Give yourself maybe take a week off work, all right? In 1 week, every day you're going to challenge yourself to do something that you're fearful of, that you've never done. Get out of your comfort zone. The whole idea is to get out of our comfort zone. Now, in all of this, our brain is going to scream danger. Okay? A lot of people are going to find it very difficult to reach here and take action because our brain is screaming danger. Now, again, please remember, only action can take it. Now, cognitively, in your mind, we need to differentiate this. Okay, the first thing is we need to differentiate this. Real versus imagined. Is it a real fear or is it an imagined fear? Alright, so a lot of it that is preventing us is here, right? Is whether it's real, imagined, and it can get on to irrational and debilitating. Now from here, what we want to know is we take steps to we want to first stay safe and recognize the difference between staying safe and being fearful. How do we differentiate real versus imagined? Is what you need to ask yourself this question, all right? Are you really trying to stay safe, or are you really being fearful? This is something you need to question. Are your fears real? Are the actions that you're taking that cause you to stay in your comfort zone truly result in you staying safe, or it is perpetuating fear in you? Now, if what you're doing is because of fear, you're taking action to stay in the comfort zone, Staying in the comfort zone will continue to feed your fear, and you will never get out, and that's why this cycle perpetuates. We have to ask ourselves, when we are stuck here, is it a real fear or imagined fear? If you're calm enough, you are going to know that it is. A lot of it are imagined, and that's why all these milestones help. And the key, all right, again, in all things normal, all right, all these milestones or exposure, all this is simply here, taking action. Some of you have heard me mention this before. I put it very simplistically. Today is like a very long thing. But other than this, I want to cover what I would call special instances of fear. All right, these special instances of fear now, these are what many people know. Those of you who know the work that we do a lot of energy and spiritual work, and we see fears that are not normal. All right, those kind of fear categories are what I would classify as fear as the result of energy and spiritual causes. Now, let me give you an example. So there are some people, they have debilitating or irrational fear. It can be acute or chronic. Now, especially when it's acute, all right, it can be due to something that is energy and spiritual. What do I mean by acute? So, for example, I have I have had clients whereby, they are normal people. They live life with reasonable amount of fear, but all of a sudden they get panic attacks. So it will, or they get debilitating fear, and so it's considered acute. Means it happens suddenly. Now, if it happens suddenly, and they contact me, of course, then it's known as acute. But for some of these people, what started out as acute, it can become chronic, and they have no idea why. They have this. They have no idea why this sense of fear or anxiety came from. It's like one moment their life. I mean, in general, their life was going well, going smoothly, and suddenly, right, for no apparent reason, they start to feel more and more fear, and it seems very imagined and irrational. But the onset was acute, and later on it can become chronic. So in my line of work and experience, there may be some kind of energy or spiritual causes behind this. Okay? And so these are energy and spiritual causes. So it can be due to nasty energies, all right, such as and it can be due to spiritual, it means it's really literally due to evil spirits. And some of these clients, of course, some of them, they are introduced to me because they here in Asia, right? It's not so much taboo. Some people, enough people believe in that there are such things as black magic and evil spirits, so they look me up. I've got quite a number of clients that when they give me a call and then, and telling me and describing, yeah, and then I'll bring up my expertise, right? So it's something that's very imagined and irrational and just very acute, and I'll tell them like, look, let me check you, all right? After a good round of meditation and so on, prayers, I'll check you, and then whatever's happening to you is due to evil spirits, and if you're okay, right, we can try cleansing, all right, to remove the spirits or black magic. Different clients, and after it's done, and they feel all right. So what I'm trying to say is there may be cases, all right, or where some people will feel, and the onset of acute irrational or imagined fears. It may be due to this. Now, whether it is due to this or not, um, it's hard to say. So maybe you need to consult some people who know it. But what we have also noticed is this. There are a lot of people, okay, in my line of work, that when they tend to stay here long, all right, that means they tend to stay here long, this here can lead to this, especially here. So in my line of work, when I see people with chronic fear, all right, now it's not to say that they don't have real fears, okay? A lot of people, when they have chronic fear, what's going to happen is their energies become very negative, become very fearful. All right, and if you know the work that I do and I talk what this some of these evil spirits want, they want to feed on negative energies. So when people are in fear and chronic fear, you give off a lot of fear energies, you're going to attract evil spirits. Okay, they can attract evil spirits. All right, and then the evil spirits will become a contributing factor and worsen the vicious cycle here. And then it gets worse. So when these people come to us, all right, we help them break out this cycle by removing this, and then try to bring them to awareness here, and maybe refer them to see counselors or therapists to deal with their fears. But normally, without, at least from our experience, when we help people remove this type of energy or spiritual causes, it is easier for them to get into this positive loop of awareness, action, and breaking through. Now, of course, for normal people, if you encounter black magic, it's really tough to get out on your own. But if you think you've been having chronically and you think there may be a chance that some of this is disturbing you, you can try spiritual methods to get out of it. The thing is, even if you don't believe that there might be some of this, okay, energy and spiritual methods can help you get out of your fear vicious cycle. All right, so just bear with me and hear me out. So something that I will recommend for normal people would be a good solution will be So a good method will be mantras and prayers of light. So there are different prayers and mantras. Those that are of light, and usually the common famous ones, right, are mantras and prayers of light. In Buddhism, will be like Nama Amitabha. In Christianity, it will be Lord's Prayer. For Muslims, it will be the Bismillah. Right? Hindu prayers too. So in general, they are of light. The thing is this, so this works by giving off positive energies and positive spiritual energies, or even call upon positive spirits to help deal with evil spirits. Okay, and the amazing thing is this, okay, prayers and mantras, it can also help calm our brain and heart down and deal with this. So there are some studies that have shown that the people who are religious and when they're doing religious stuff, their neurotransmitters, brain and heart, everything enter a nice zone, and when you're in a nice zone, you can snap out of this. So you can try to believe that kind of medical scientific research. From an energy and spiritual point of view, it's because positive energies or the positive divine spirits, the divine, the gods and deities, the good one, the good guys are helping you deal with this, provided you do enough. Okay, and it is also recognized that meditation can help. So with meditation, on the medical side, psychology side, while meditation can help for some people, whereby the cases of severe, meditation cannot help. For us, if you've been following us, we have our own methods that can help, like we teach Unity Qigong, light meditation, non-attachment meditation, all right, that will generate positive energies. It helps people deal with such stuff, and at the same time also help us physically with our brain and heart neurotransmitters, lowering down our brain waves. Most people will experience that when they do our practices. And if you're interested, we teach it free online, yeah, every month. So should you find yourself in fear, all right, what I would recommend is maybe it's good to know this, identify what kind of fear is it, right? Understand you're in this loop. And the only way you're going to get out is by snapping out of this vicious cycle into a bigger awareness, whereby you know action is the cure, and you need to take action until you break through. All right? Know very well there is science that backs this action thing, because the moment you take action, there is a reward factor, you will have dopamine, and it will help you break out of this and to stay in this loop. And if you have milestones in your life that you have not done, that could be done, it could be something like having sex, moving out, or taking out some personal challenge, go and do it and break out of this cycle. Okay? Exposure therapy, and last but not least, energy and spiritual methods. Now, I've also done a spiritual questions answered. There's a recording on mantras and prayers of light. You can look it up in our YouTube, all right, YouTube channel under the Spiritual Questions Answered podcast. There's an entire recording, all right, whereby I was doing the mantras and prayers of light. You can take a look at that. All right, so let me take a look at your questions, and it looks like there's quite a number. Everyone saying human fear of the unknown, the impact on himself or herself. Yeah, so classify this. Ashish, what to do and what are the remedies for removing black magic and the fear of anxiety or depression caused by evil spirits? So for Ashish, so you can consider this, all right? If you think it's not helping you, feel free to look me up, all right? Or look someone up that you trust that can do this, okay? So you'll be surprised what mantras and prayers of light can do. The very least you can do is go to our YouTube, play the mantras and prayers of light, because I'll be chanting, and feel the energies, all right, and see whether it gives you a moment, a brief respite, a brief, a temporary clearing of your fears. So I've done this for many clients. A lot of clients, they are not sure, right, and I just tell them very simple, over the consultation call. I tell them, okay, why don't you try this, all right? Ask them what religion they are from, and if they have a religion, I give them the mantra of light of their religion. If they have no religion, then I tell them, why don't you try like the Buddhist one, Namo Amitofo. They try and then they feel, wow, immediately there's some effect. And then I tell them, look, very likely there will be some energy and spiritual factor there. Okay, so you can try that. Evan says some fear of death. What next? Afterlife, rebirth. Now, fear of death is very real. So, yeah, I mentioned. So, to me, the main thing about fears is we need to evaluate our fears. And a lot of it is, it's cognitive. We have to go through here. Is it really a real fear or imagined fear? And we would need to compare, what we're feeling with others, and try to do your homework with respect to death. To me, death is not really a big deal, because reincarnation is real, heaven is real. You can check out my videos. But different people have their different take. So you need to go through a very cognitive process. So to me, awareness is a very big deal. So real, imagine. I'm a very cognitive person. So cognitive means using your brains and analysis and everything. But I know, when you're in this loop, it's very difficult. For people like me, if I'm very cognitive, I will tend to do a lot of this way. But many people are very emotional people, so they tend to stay stuck here. So then you need to be aware of this. Yeah. Fear of dark, fear of ghosts, or yeah, all this is a try to get rid of ignorance. Ignorance. So main thing, people, they are fearful because they're ignorant. All right. So if you have fearful evil spirits and everything, rest assured. All right, the light side is more powerful. Okay, and you need to do some mantras and prayers of light. Do what you can. If you cannot, then you seek professional help. So Evan said, many fear no food for the next meal, hunger, starvation, hope, not out. Okay, yeah. So those are real fears. All right. So when everybody is talking about fear of no food, those are real fears. Those are not imagined. A lot of people suffer from imagined fears. But if you're suffering from real fear, it's the same thing. You still need to take some action to break through, right? If fear of no food, you need to take some action to get food. Let me see what else. Let me say now Iran, US war, many fear recession coming, out of job, retrenchment. Yeah, so those are fears again. We have to, this is a big thing, yeah? Real versus imagined. How real are the fears? How much is it imagined? And for example, I'm not sure, like AI. AI is coming on very fast, it's developing very fast. Is it an imagined fear? So there are a lot of people imagining that there'll be a lot of high employment, but to me, it's while it's imagined right now, it's not. I think it is a highly likely scenario that AI can replace a lot of jobs and also create a lot of opportunities, right? So basically, if you find that you are in a job that can be easily replaced by AI, then it is a real fear. You need to take some action to make sure you won't go out of job. I always like to say, I'm quite glad. I'm very sure that my job is AI proof. No, no machine can do what I do. To help people deal with evil spirits and black magic, for example. It has to be done by people. People who can generate light. Yeah, this divine light. So yeah, should you find yourself in that kind of situation, it's a real fear, please take real action. Okay. So Cora is saying, so opportunities for feelings of empowerment. I'm not sure what you're referring to, but yeah, the whole idea is this. From here, you are drowning in vicious cycle, yeah. You need to empower yourself, take action, recognize there's science behind it. Go ahead. Zhan Musi is saying, I have a high tolerance for ambiguity and uncertainty, which can lead to conflict with my friends and family in my planning and communication. Leaps of faith are one, or how I drive without a GPS. My loved one is uncomfortable with how I don't know the exact route from A to B on the map. Instead, I don't want to sit on the highway when I can take shortcuts where the GPS isn't routing people and get to see a new neighborhood. Taking action leads to more information that can in turn improve my plan or take me on a tangent that was better than the original plan. Another example is at the grocery store. I don't know which vegetables I will pick until I see which one is the most fresh. How can I communicate better with people who expect a predictable and long-range result? I also see the benefits to this linear A then B then C then D approach. So I know Zhang Musi. So Zhang Musi is he's actually James. Okay, so Zhang Musi is the Chinese for James. I know James personally. James, I know. Okay, so I know James personally. James has a very interesting personal challenges in his life, whereby he broke out a lot of these fears. Okay, and that is why he is who he is today. All right, so he is what he's saying is he will drive without GPS. All right, he will not pre-plan because he have done so many personal challenges that his life is pretty amazing. Yeah, so he did a lot of this, moving out, leaving home. James is American. He left his family, went homeless, left the US, went to China, couldn't speak Chinese. He went to China. Good stuff, right? So James, by taking out a lot of personal challenges, and no doubt, he may have been forced, or it's something that he felt he needed to do. He took it all up and he broke a lot of fears, and all this by taking action. All right. But the same James also he encountered this type. That's how he met me, right? Energy and spiritual kind of situation that was causing him in a different type of fear. But the real human type of fear, he did very well. Carl was saying, on the flip side, have you considered that working on communication with loved ones can help bring clarity and alignment between you and them? Might be uncomfortable at first, but if they see you making effort, will foster trust, and they will also be able to let go of always wanting to know because of faith and trust. I think, James, for you is, it will take time for people to understand what you've gone through with your personal challenges, what it means for you to break out of your shell of leaving home and all that. It changes a person really, and I believe by taking up these type of personal challenges, it really makes a person confident that they can meet any unknown or adversity that might come out there. Evan is saying fear is false evidence appearing real. Right. All right. So it's just a lot of it are imagined fears. Evan said if miss train can hop onto the train and just pay fine for hop without ticket. Yeah, I didn't think of that, when it happened to me. But actually, in those days, in order to get on the train, you need to have a ticket, a valid ticket. The conductor, at the station, before they let you get through the gate, they see the ticket. That was the way. So in those days, I think that wouldn't have worked. Callista is asking, Kat, when we have lens of biases or are so blindsided, how do we get out of this lens to recognize whether our fears are real or imagined? So my advice is this. So if you're doing it the normal way, you can only do it the cognitive way, try to get out of ignorance. If not, the way that I found that really helps are stuff like mantras and prayers, all right, meditation. Now, meditation done right or Qigong done right will slow down your brain waves, will deal with all this such that you're in a better state to evaluate whether is it real or imagined. And so that you can better take action, it's easier for you to get into this state. Right? Of course, if this session is just a psychologist talking, you won't be talking about this. But all right, we are in this spiritual energy line. I tell you, this stuff really works. If you have not tried it, try it. Okay, try it. Give yourself a chance to break out of this, and I hope you'll be pleasantly surprised. Now, if your own powers of prayer are not strong enough, just go to my YouTube, all right? Look up this video, Mantras and Prayers of Light. I will be the one doing the chanting of the mantras and prayers, and the energies will be stronger, and hopefully it will be able to help you, all right? I think it's quite likely that it can help you. Edwin again, actually enter the jungle can be fearful, tiger, insect, and all this. Yeah. All those can be real, and it also can be imagined. So when I was a kid, right? There's some sort of personal challenge. So as a teen in high school, um, 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 you know, I joined the outdoor activities club, ODAC, and this was in Singapore, yeah, and in Singapore they like to send people to those islands that are that don't have so much negligible population there. So a lot of Boy Scouts, all these outdoor clubs, they army training, they go to this place called Pulau Ubin, Ubin Island. So we went there, and so for the first time in my life, in the outdoor with the outdoor activities club, we had to spend a huge part of the night alone in the dark, you know, and with no torch and only a nightstick, the nightstick. And we had to start off by building a tent, a tent somewhere in the woods. Stay there for a few hours, and when the certain time has passed, we are supposed to trek from point A to point B alone. All right, from point A to point B alone, relying on the compass, the night sky, whether it rains or doesn't rain, don't care. And of course, there was fear of all those things. Now, I tell you, the imagine fear is real bad, but really, yes, there may be snakes or whatever, but actually, the chance of you encountering a snake in the wild is not that high because you make enough noise, everything will run away from you, okay? So, in general, that's the way, you are fearful because of imagined fears. In real life, it's not that bad. Okay, so yeah, go through more of this, exposure therapy. Yeah, I mean, say Ubin Island got many spirits. Yeah, so that's what some people say. Um, Someone is asking, what if fear is stemming from confusion? For me right now, after all right, so this something a bit more personal. So it's more stemming from confusion and unknown. So now the question still goes back to, is it a real fear or is it an imagined fear? Right? And that's why, I put this right in the center here. This is the biggest question for many people when it comes to fear. How real is your fear? I tell you, in most cases, maybe as much as 90% of most people's cases, the fear is not that real. The imagined fear is always generally worse than the real fear. Okay? Even with evil spirits, the only exception is maybe black magic, because black magic can be really, really nasty. But even with evil spirits, when people start experiencing evil spirits, in general, the imagined fears are worse. And it's true, the evil spirits will add on fears so that we stay here, so that they feed our imagined fears, and such that people will end up being irrational or go into freeze mode, debilitating mode by the fears. And it can be because of the evil spirits doing. But the actual harm that are really caused by the evil spirits, like really physical, it's not that much. It's really they're causing all this emotional and mental emotional and mental illness or non-well-being, can't find the word there. Right? It's actually more imagined and more energy feeding than actual real, somewhat real physical fear. But because it's mental, emotional, when it becomes chronic, it can really affect people's health. Okay, so yeah. Xiao Fang says fear of not doing good enough. Yeah, imagined. It's an imagined fear. Those of you who heard my personal story, yeah, I went into depression because of fear of not being good enough. And then I got into depression and I wanted to kill myself. It's really stupid. It was really stupid. Okay, now looking back, I was really stupid back then. But when I was suffering, I didn't know. So there's someone who asked about, yeah, the fear of the unknown. Yeah, the fear is forcing me to take action. So I suppose that is positive. Yes. As long as it forces you to take action, and I tell you, action is the one that will break you out. Edwin got food, no debt, no stress, good relationship, health, no issue, no fear, blessed. Yeah. Mickey is asking, could imagined fear stem from our subconscious mind or perceptions? Yes. Right? For some people, yes, and so look, there may be some kind of very funny thing, and it can be due to spiritual reason. I also have people who have fears that don't come from their present life, okay? So yeah, they can be from evil spirits, can be something that come from past life. People who are fearful of water because they were drowned in the past life, right? So they have an inexplicable phobia, all right? And maybe some of this energy healing that we have managed to help some people, okay? And yeah, even in the field of psychology, people do hypnosis to do that. So can it be from subconscious mind or perceptions? Yes, because of all this, subconscious mind and perceptions can cause all this, and to come out of it, we still need to get to awareness. But the initial awareness will cause us to be here. So we need to reach big awareness. And the main thing about big awareness is we need to know that action will solve everything. All right? Just that we need to find the right kind of action. And it may be, you may have some kind of inkling that it may be due to this, and even taking action to do some mantras and chanting to see whether whether it can help, try it out. It is taking action, all right? So the more you take action, you stop this vicious cycle and you stop being frozen, debilitating being frozen. Okay? Any questions before we call it a day, call it a night? Sorry this has taken so long. All right, if not, thank you everyone for having me. Yeah, if you guys are interested, tomorrow I'll be teaching non-attachment meditation. So it's another form of meditation that can help us. All right, maybe you can let go of your attachment to fear or whatever attachments, whatever fears that you have. And if you feel you've benefited from tonight's talk, maybe you would like to make a donation to support us. How to support us will be in the groups. In Facebook group is under the featured section. All right. If you can't afford it, it's fine. It's free, and the recording will be uploaded next month. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day, good night, and goodbye.